So Josh Heupel and the Tennessee Volunteers are coming off of a big year, not only in terms of what they were able to do on the football field, but also what they were able to do during the course of recruiting. Because if we look at that 2023 recruiting cycle, not only did Tennessee assemble a top 10 recruiting class in the nation, but when we look, their class is filled with some intriguing prospects. But today, we need to turn our attention to the class of 2024, because Heupel and the Tennessee Volunteers got a major win, being able to keep home one of the top 10 athletes in the state of Tennessee and get in a win over the likes of Michigan, Michigan State, Nebraska, and Coach Prime in Colorado. And of course, today, we're talking about three-star athlete Marcus Goree committing to the Tennessee Volunteers and what this means. Before we can break this down, as always, y'all know the drill, I have got to hear from you. Hop down to the comments, give me a Y for yes or an N for no. Are you excited that Goree chose to stay home and play for Tennessee? Let me know what you're thinking. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Hit that bell notification as I do constant college football content. You don't want to miss any of it. And if you enjoyed the content, be sure to like and comment down below. Those interactions seem small, but they are massive, and we're on a push to 20,000 subscribers. I'd love to have you a part of this unbelievable community. But having said all that, let's jump right into this. And as I stated in the intro, this is a big win for a few different reasons. First and foremost, let's talk about Marcus Goree. He stands 6 foot, 6 foot and a half, 170 pounds per 24/7 Sports, and he comes in as a 3-star prospect, but specifically, he is a top 10 player in the state of Tennessee, and he has an intriguing blend of skills, because he's considered an athlete, but I particularly think he'll go to Tennessee and play defensive back, but do not get it misunderstood. This is a guy that if he continues to progress as a wide receiver, he could play at the next level on the offensive side of the ball as well. There's a reason he's listed as an athlete. He is a very gifted prospect, but as I stated, whenever we look, the lead recruiter for the Tennessee Volunteers is their secondary coach, saying to me they want this guy to come in and help out that secondary. And when we look at this, that's going to be a big reason as to why I think this is such a big win, but we'll get to that later. We also need to talk about another reason why this is a big win, the institutions you were able to win the commitment of Goree over. Because we're talking about Michigan, who is just in the college football playoff, Michigan State, who always is in these top lists, Nebraska, which has a ton of hype right now with Matt Rhule coming back, and Colorado, where Coach Prime has Colorado in seemingly every single top-tier recruiting battle we've talked about in recent memory, whether that's in the class of 2023, whether that's in the class of 2024, or even 2025, the hype around Colorado right now, it's palpable. And so whenever you're able to get in a win for a prospect, keeping them away, you have to love that, and especially whenever we get into the conversation of how can Goree help the Volunteers. And this is where I think this is such a great win for Josh Heupel, because whenever we look at what Tennessee was able to do on the football field this year, there was a lot that was hyper impressive, but one thing Tennessee absolutely has got to improve on is their secondary. Because whenever we look, it's intriguing that this defense would rank number 36 in the nation in terms of scoring defense and have a top 25 defense against the run, but against the pass, they came in as number 127 in the nation, and because of that, they came in as the 91st total defense. This was an offense that was humming. This was an offense that was using scheme and an experienced quarterback plus playmakers on the outside to really hurt defenses. But unfortunately, going into next year, you don't have a veteran quarterback to rely on if your secondary does not improve. If your secondary is making it to where your defense cannot stay on the field, you don't have that veteran quarterback presence to be able to fall back on. And because of that, it is so good that Heupel and the Volunteers have put as much attention onto that secondary as they have. Because if we look at the class of 2023, they signed 5 defensive backs just through traditional recruiting means, and then brought on a 6th defensive back through the transfer portal from BYU. So they're cognizant about the problems that they have and how they need to go about fixing them. Because this is a secondary that cannot be the number 127 against the pass a second year in a row. Not whenever you're losing your star quarterback, not whenever you're losing some of your star playmakers. And while I certainly believe Heupel is a good coach, there is going to be an adjustment period without having Hendon Hooker there, without having some of those guys on the outside. And because of that, your defense is going to have to take a step forward. Not only because you lose Hendon Hooker, but even if in a world where Hendon Hooker was still there, you would absolutely need your secondary to take a step forward. But it's good to see that Heupel is cognizant, and not only being cognizant, because it's one thing to identify, hey, I've got a problem. I think that's fairly easy to do, to look at your situation and say, hey, this isn't working, I have a problem. I think the part that gets difficult is then being able to win these recruiting battles, to then be able to convince a prospect, hey, this has been a problem area for us, sure, come in and help us. And that's what this staff has been able to do, both in the class of 2023 and very early on in the class of 2024, where they have gotten a few commitments, and it's going to be interesting to see how they continue to build. I can't wait to see the offseason for the Tennessee Volunteers. They are one of the few teams in college football. I say a few teams. That list would be very long for me, but they are one of a handful of teams in college football that I am so curious as to how they're going to navigate the offseason and going into next season because of some of the losses they've sustained, but because of the season they just had in Tennessee's case. Tennessee is coming off of a season where they had such positive results, it begs the question, how will you build upon that? Much the same I could say for USC, where they had such a good season, how do you continue to build upon that? And I don't ask that question with a shade of doubt. That's not my point here at all. I ask that question because I'm intrigued. I am enamored by what they are doing, and I want to see it continue. And seeing Tennessee be able to get these types of wins, getting guys over the likes of Colorado, Michigan, Michigan State, and Nebraska, you love that, and especially if they're in your state, because keeping guys in your state, that's a great recipe to being able to win in recruiting. Can't wait to hear from all of you. Hop down to the comments. Let me know what you're thinking. That's it. See ya.